opening for any questions you might have.
All right. Just on the share ownership, you've like 50% institutional and then 40% insiders. Are you saying like the float is 10%, or is that institutional and insiders kind of overlapping?
Yeah, I'll let Dave pitch in a little bit more, but I'll say like about 80% is between institutional and insiders altogether, roughly.
Yeah, it's well up in the 80s. So you're right. The float is 10 to 15% or so.
Okay, that's pretty tight. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And I think you mentioned, but I just want to reiterate on the cash flow model of it. Do clients, they don't pay on a month to month, or do they pay quarterly, or is it all annual up front? And you've got multi-year contracts, but they pay on an annual basis?
Yeah, great question. Historically, it was month to month. So we were working a lot through AT&T. That was our biggest part of our base. And, when you're SMB, it tends to be more than month to month. But in the last 5 years, we've really been transitioning our focus and the whole composition of the base. So it is a lot more enterprise, which is more of the, 1 to 3 and as much as 5-year commitments, and usually paid annually in advance. And that really has been a shift in the base itself over the last several years. And then now all the newer deals tend to be more of the upfront commitment. So when we talk about Ebitda losses or non-GAAP op losses, the way we measure it, those are offset a lot by new bookings with prepaid contracts. So it really helps the cash flow, and we've been able to maintain our cash at a pretty level. I think, I want to say for 2 years or so, our cash has been in the $5 to $6 million US range. And then in 2020, it actually went up because we refinanced our debt, and our debt was with BDC. It was mezzanine debt. We moved that to senior debt with TD at much lower rates. But as well, BDC exercised their warrants, so that popped our cash up to close to 8 million and US. So and that's tends to stay pretty steady. It might come down a little bit, but not radically. It's certainly not commensurate with the losses that we would show on an accounting basis.
Yeah. Alvaro, I think from one of your slides, you talked about retention rates with your enterprise customers. I think I saw it was over 100%. And is that because your land and expand, your organic sort of same client sales is growing faster than your losses within existing clients? Did I get that right?
Totally. That's what that measures. So we have a great expansion story, and the expansion story is also, as I call it, product led. A lot of it, we're getting better at stimulating it ourselves, but the product grows very well. And the reason for it is, if you look at it in a large organization, the field people have usually analysts and people that understand the workflows very well. And as they are empowered with a tool like this that doesn't require a single line of code, okay, to stand up a workflow, they start saying, you know what, we should add this thing. Oh, wow, we got it. We got the data. Now we can refine it. And now we should add this thing. So it starts growing in a beautiful way. It grows extremely well. Now it's not fully hands off because we want to accelerate it even further. So we work, we stimulate the accounts, and we're making big investments in that motion because it's a very profitable motion. The cost of acquisition is very, very small.
So, like, I view forms, and maybe a lot of people do, I don't know, like they're like on Google, I've got my Google Forms and I can input a couple of things and that, and obviously you guys are more sophisticated than that, but it's, from the outside, it seems like a pretty, okay, once you've got it developed, there's not a lot of growth or add features in that. Like, I presume it's more complex than it sort of seems on the outside. Can you just sort of explain, or is it like that? Like, where can you kind of grow the technology or sort of expand it so it's more relevant, or that Salesforce doesn't just drop in a forms thing and then says, see you later?
Yeah, no, great question. So let me start with the genesis. The field calls these things that we used to see as a form. Okay, so what was a form? Set of questions and answers in an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, okay, with ink on it, and how many you can squeeze into it, that was a form. So the reality is that a form, and that's how we started with the name of the company being the form part of it. The reality is that the power of the story is on the Pronto side of the story, okay? It's fast, it's easy, you can make those workflows, but forms is way past its time. At some point, we probably even dropped the name from that perspective. But in the field, this is still a concept that people understand, and it's a good departure point for people. These are apps, okay? These are not forms anymore. These are sophisticated and very well-refined apps. So what happened in this field in this world of competition around these things is that the big kahunas and the big monsters, the Salesforces and people like that, or ServiceMax, they focus on the back office, okay? That's where the majority of the activity happens. So for them, a part in the field is just an item, okay? It's just, an element that a CFO is trying to control the cost for that thing, okay? And those are mainly the transactions, scheduling, things like that, sophisticated, no question about it. But when you come to the field, a lot of things happen. And it's the same as in the white collar working environment. It's like saying that SAP can do it all, okay? There's so much automation that goes after SAP in Excel, in many things that happen very close to these operational units and these operational environments. That is where we shine. And now the big guys, they basically, if it is simple, as you said, 3-4 questions, they're usually called checklists. And those checklists, they support them, okay? So ServiceMax have a checklist capability, but when the problem gets serious, they need us. And that's where we come in. Same with Salesforce, okay? So the issue for them is that a simple inspection going into a house, as I said at the beginning, for some use cases, and making sure that they clean their boots and they left the car parked with a cone around, those are things that a simple checklist can do. When you're entering a hospital, same analogy, but when you're entering the hospital, it's a very different story. And nowadays, even worse. So that's what differentiates these things. Can they come and basically build what we have, which is the fear of everybody that owns a software company? Look, it is possible. It's obviously in the realm of the possibility. However, I believe what is going to happen is the market is playing out in a way that as we build more, okay, at some point, they're going to understand the relevance of what I'm talking about. And I'm pretty sure some big moves will happen at some point where they will acquire some, others will try to build, okay? And in the meantime, we keep on expanding the capability of the platform, and we'll see. I mean, I don't have any religious attachment to which way it will go. We're here to build shareholder value at the end of the day. And we'll take whatever the paths played by the market. I don't control the market.
Yeah. Well, when you say expand the capabilities, what are some, like a bit of your roadmap that you can talk publicly about? What are some capabilities you want to add to it, or give some examples of that so maybe you can understand better?
So look, this year we announced a capability that is called Teamwork, and Teamwork is basically the following scenario. Continue with the analogy of the MRI. An MRI is not installed by one person. It's installed by a squad, a team of people that go pass this to the other one. I didn't complete this task. I'm sick tomorrow. So there is a lot of things that happen in terms of orchestrating the execution of that. So we have a lot of capabilities that we built, and we're refining them as part of in the product roadmap. There is another public product roadmap. There is another one which we are very, very interested on, and we keep on evolving, which is the world out there is still, there is this pseudo paper world, okay? So there are manuals, which the majority of them are electronic, but there are, when you put them electronically and you move them out of paper, there is a lot of interesting things that can happen, okay? Which you can derive the context of where the worker is doing. I'll give you an example. I'm in this stage of the workflow. Instead of going to a manual library that has 11 PDFs on it, when I press help, presenting a contextual view based on what you're seeing, it becomes very relevant, okay? So there is this interface of blueprints, for instance. Blueprints are things that come and they exist already, CAD been for ages, but consuming a blueprint in the context of an execution of a workflow is something that not many people can do. But because we are orchestrating the overall workflow, we can do it in a great way. So those are capabilities that we're adding to the product. And we partner a lot with other people. Like there are people that are doing this remote diagnosis. And remote diagnosis is an issue that requires visualization on both ends. There are people that are gurus at it. One of the key pieces that they're missing is context again, okay? Which is, hey, can you show me what was the last reading? Okay, so that's in the workflow if we can present that. So there are things that we're building on our own here, things that we're OEMing to accelerate, and things where we're partnering. And the roadmap has all those three approaches, many features, and there is a very robust workflow roadmap in the hands of the company right now.
So it's more, and I'm getting probably too sort of product focus here, but so it's not just I'm entering in data, but let's say I say, oh, the light is red, and I press that, oh, because of that, here's the circuit diagram or whatever, and then you need to make sure A is flicked to B or whatever. Yeah. So it's kind of interactive, and then you can add more data or more interactivity to it. Is that kind of it?
Right on the money. I mean, we have one of our large healthcare manufacturer customers. Imagine that the MRI guys, okay, they have to do is an MRI. There is not exact science to say, oh, you got to a calibration of 11.2, yeah, ready, that's on or off, green or red. No, it's the reality is that certain pieces can be calibrated up to certain degrees. Environmental issues can change other pieces, age of the equipment. So capturing a lot of this knowledge in a way that is reproducible with compliance, because you can kill people if you got it wrong, okay? With all the control that exists around this machine exists in 15 different languages, in 138 different countries. So you can see how the complexity is scaled in a second, okay? Very, very fast. So yeah, it's exactly that. And this is what people are discovering now, because they're just starting to understand that, guess what, those guys in the field, and I'll be a little bit more, extend my analogy here for a second, is those people in the field, they made a decision in their careers, the same way the three of us here on the screen, we decided to go into an office. These guys decided to be in the field, okay? And it's a different mentality. So when they go into the field, what do they have to look after? Number one, their safety, okay? Above all, paramount, their safety. And number two, being efficient. They tinker with everything they have, okay? Oh, I learned this about this MRI today. I noticed that this is the behavior. How do I communicate that? How do I iterate with it? So this is what people are starting to learn about this new thing called the field. And people are applying all paradigms of automating, guys like the three of us, and they don't apply the same way.
I would think as well, once it gets more complicated like that, like an application of some AI technology to help sort of problem solve, or hey, do this or that, or set off an alarm because certain parameters have been breached, could be sort of add some more real intelligence to the platform.
Correct, and we enable that as well. We have been enabling it for years already, because I mean, when you start collecting information about elevator shafts failures in certain particular situations, the environmental context of the data surrounding that is hugely important. So when you've performed 35,000 inspections, in a week, machine learning plays a huge role in starting to predict for the people that are looking at the big picture. But also what we're trying to enable is help the field person in what they have to do next based on not only their observations, but a body of knowledge that is analyzed for them.
When you make a pitch to a client, like sort of like it's kind of obvious, seems like it's kind of obvious what the benefits are, but are clients looking for, we want a 30% ROI or a 2-year payback? Can they measure it like that? Or what are the catalysts to actually trigger a client to say, yeah, we need this? Is it sort of a certain kind of metric, or just holistically, it's like, crap, we need to know what more of what's going on in the field, support our guys better, and it's just a tool they need?
There has been an evolution as we speak. I mean, some of these field people that we talk to, I mean, Johnson Controls, they've had technology in the field for 30 years. Okay, so this is not new to them. So as they look, I mean, a sophisticated organization like that, they have very strong methodologies for their business cases, and their business cases have some very tangible, easy elements like get rid of paper. Okay, that is a material one, no question about it. As they start going into it, they start looking technician satisfaction and the retention of technicians is a huge element of it. Training of technicians is a huge element of it as well. So I've seen a few of the business cases, and they're very sophisticated, Martin. I mean, we hit a lot of high notes, a lot of high points, because we touch very holistically the process. So there's a lot of benefits. I was talking to a customer yesterday who's going to be on one panel that I'm hosting tomorrow. And the guy was talking about 250, 300% return on investment in the first 6 months of the deployment. I mean, so like, what? I left that much money on the table is what I was thinking. but it is now this is serious companies and people with careers that they put these business cases in front of their bosses, and it's real. I mean, it's real benefits, no question about it.
And is it the business managers that are sort of making the decision and sort of get IT approval, or is it like is it a COO kind of operational choice, or more of an IT solutions kind of thing?
So let me joke a little bit with the question. I used to be a CIO, and I'll tell you 2 guys that I was always afraid at the management team that they were going to take a shot at IT. Operations, being the field people, okay, and sales, because the company lives of that. Okay, so every time one of those 2 guys said something about IT, I had more than 2 years for that individual. Okay, and that is still the case. I mean, these are line of business managers that identify the problem, identify the solution, then they partner. This is not shoved down the throat of IT, okay? They partner with IT. In those cases, the relationships are very strong, or the no relationship is very well defined, which is it's an independent unit. They don't have to do anything with IT. So this battle between IT and the business, I see less and less of that. To my colleagues in the IT world have made a good job of partnering with the business, and I see much better scenarios there. So to add to that point is IT is up to their ears in the amount of work of automation. Everybody has to automate everything today. And what they've taken as a very clear position, and Gartner has done a lot with this low-code thing as well, in teaching the CIOs and everybody, enable, as long as it is secured, and as long as you control the key points of integration with your back office systems, enable it, push it as much as you can to the edge, because that's the only way they can even scratch the surface of the amount of automation that has to happen.
All right. Shifting topics a bit, you've got some good cash on your balance sheet. You're running kind of cash neutral, sort of fueling that for your growth. Are there, as you expand, are there opportunities for M&A for you to do M&A as to, I don't know, would you buy other competitors to get their clients or new technology to expand your offering, or how do you view that?
Yeah, so look, at the stage that the company is at right now, we're totally focused. I mean, COVID is obviously, you are always worried about, okay, when is it going to be over, et cetera, et cetera. So we're playing a little bit more sensible to the situation that we're in. I mean, that the world is going through. However, we've seen a big shift. I mean, the world has evolved a lot to what we used to see before, primarily the US, which is our main market. So as we are executing on 2021 is about sales productivity and increasing more those motions of expansions and and acquisition. I mean, just really mastering them to a level where we feel more comfortable in accelerating them even further, even though, I mean, there is nothing wrong with 30% growth losing the money that we are losing, okay? There is a very good model there with the margins that we have. But so that's where we're spending some time. And 2022, I definitely believe that we will make some moves with regards to starting to complete that wheel that you saw of our platform. And I think buying customers is something that I don't necessarily think is what we need to buy right now. The cost of acquisition that we have right now is a lot lower than any multiple that we're going to pay for customers. So we can keep going and growing on that side. I think buying some talking technologies that will help us completing the wheel, okay, and keep on evolving the wheel. While, I mean, those companies come with customers, and it might even come with some geographical diversification that will give us a footprint somewhere else. So those are the kind of things we will be looking in the next year. So it's definitely in the horizon for us.
You mentioned geography. What is your sort of geographic concentration? Are you mostly North American focused, and then you sort of get global subsidiaries, or are you sort of targeting European or Asian client head offices directly, or?
Yeah, if you will speak to some of my board members, I will have to answer not enough for sure. So look, the product is currently used in about 85 countries around the world as we speak right now. And we've done that out of having operations in Canada with the main market in the US, because any of the companies that we have are very global. Plus we sell a lot of, I mean, the world is very flat these days, and these days now it's very flat, and people just come from different places and buy very quickly. However, as we look at the evolution, we started already to put one resource international, which is starting to give us a good understanding of what it will take. We've done partnerships with many people in geographical areas, and that will be part of the next step of the evolution, is to have a more concerted effort internationally. I've been an international guy for many years, have a great network of people everywhere that we can tap into, but selling SaaS in the way we sell it and expanding it requires a more defined investment as you go international.
If you got, like, you work with resellers or OEMs, like you could kind of partner with an Oracle or a Salesforce, and you're just going to be their default form field service kind of component?
Yeah. So look, the partnering at the beginning started by replicating operators throughout the world, and that gave us some resellers in country that were taking care of these distribution channels. So that worked okay. However, in that process, what we step into were some OEM deals where people OEM our product into their offering, okay? And that actually has been a very good business for us, and keeps surprising us, and how many people sometimes, it's hard to predict what they're going to bring to the table every month, but we get the odd deal like, oh my God, wow, I didn't know they were still alive to that mode, okay? So it's great. It's like royalties from a song that you wrote many years ago, and it's great. It works excellent. However, so we do, should we specialize more resources into making that a better thing? Yes, is the answer, because the evidence is good. but it has a different timeline, a different sales cycle, etc. So that will be something that we will focus on resources on the side, yes. But the most important part is the one that you mentioned, and these are ecosystems. So we have put some investment into Salesforce with ServiceMax as well, and soon with Microsoft. And they come with their own ecosystems, and those ecosystems come with system integrators and with other people that add value to our story. So we're starting to do more of that and learning more about it. And it's starting to work. I mean, we're seeing some opportunities and some closes coming through that.
If you were, let's say you had an extra $1 million a year of cash flow, or you wanted to sort of grow the business faster and increase your burn rate, would that be but investing more money into your sales and marketing, or putting it into R&D development because you need new features, or what are sort of the rate limiting factors to driving growth here? Where would you get your biggest bang for your buck from sort of investing in growth?
Yeah, so we go through that analysis every year on every $1 million that we're placing out there. So more or less the ratios that you saw on the operating model, 50% into sales and about 35% into R&D. Within sales, I still believe that as we are developing our ability to sell, I will put more money there. It's starting to show some even better metrics, okay? And once I can see how you can get to another level of growth, another totally different dimension of growth. It comes by little pieces. There isn't anything that is going to grow 20% overnight, okay? Yeah. But as you execute these pieces better, they can add up to another 10 without having to radically change the company, taking a lot of risks. And that's what I was saying this year is about fine-tuning more those things so we can deploy even more capital next year.
All right. Well, we're almost up to an hour here on the call, so we should wrap this up. Are there any final comments or things you want to hit upon before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I would say one thing for investors that will be listening to this, whether it's ProntoForms or another ticker symbol that you pick, pay special attention to the field automation world. It's very real, number one. COVID has made it even more relevant and has all the technologies finally here. Devices are here. The need for productivity is here. And it's just going to get a big jab, like one of those vaccines that we're all waiting for, in the arm with this injection of money in. It's not only going to be in the US, it's that the infrastructure that we currently use in all of our countries and the amount of field work that is required through all the challenges that the world is living, a good part of the answers are field related, and we're there. So if you're not going to be on ProntoForms, I understand it. It's okay, but keep an eye on it. It's a big place that is growing very well.
And I think one of the big drivers as well is just the change in mindset, where people who are like, I don't want to do a video call now. A year ago, you just had to do it. You get used to it, and it's like, oh, okay. And people are just having to be more remote, connected in, and we've all learned, okay, we can adapt. We're a lot more kind of flexible than we thought we were. So I think that's one of the biggest drivers, is just like the fact that I'm doing all these Zoom calls and so forth. Like if I came up with this idea 18 months ago, people would be like, no thanks, let's meet in the boardroom. And so it's a change in mindset. Yeah, and that's happening in the field, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was really good. And maybe, come back another time. We'll get an update on how things are going. We'd love to. Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks to the listeners to putting up with an hour of Spanglish. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day, and we'll talk again soon. It was fun. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.